You can do the three objects and then we're gonna do field team stuff.
All right, so I just jump into this, right?
Yes.
All right, so three objects, and I've chosen one for each of family, personal, and professional. Um, and two of them were given to me by Tammy. Um, so the first one, way back in my younger days, I used to wear I had long hair, motorcycle jacket, and from every zipper pull on the motorcycle jacket, I had some kind of ankh. And then I also had a long silver chain with a silver ankh on the bottom. So my my engagement ring, men don't usually get engagement rings, but my engagement ring was this. And so if you ever see that you're wondering what that gold chain is that I'm wearing, that's what it is. And so that's my family one and my commitment to family and just that part of my life. And so I almost always wear it every, like once a month I forget to put it on and I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So second one, the personal one is, as we're getting a little bit older, we're really trying to get out and do things, not wait for retirement to do fun things. And as probably all of you know, we did a Grand Canyon trip last year. I thought of a number of different things I could do for this, but we did a Grand Canyon trip last year, which was just absolutely incredible. And so my biggest kind of object to remind me of that is my custom made Horn Creek Swim Team shirt that Tammy got made for me. And at least some of you, perhaps all of you know, I did swim Horn Creek, which is one of the biggest rapids on the canyon, and ended up while swimming and coming up underneath our raft multiple times. Um, Obviously survived, but the whole trip was an incredible experience, and that particular event is probably the one most burned into my memory. And it was, I do not regret at all having had that experience, even though you could say it should have been terrifying. It was just really incredible. So that is that object. My last one, I do not have this object with me. I believe Whitney has it to hold up. The professional one is my ASHRAE Award, the Environmental Health Award that I got in 2020. And that is very special to me because for a couple of reasons. One, I had no idea I was nominated. I just got this email saying I had won it. And the other thing is, well, so that says that people really, it wasn't just a matter of getting enough points. You can put it down. Um, it wasn't a matter of just having enough points, putting in enough time. It was that my colleagues, my peers thought that I was deserving of it. And part of the reason why that is really so special to me is because in my kind of unusual role, I'm not faculty, I'm not a lot of things. I tend to sit in the middle of a lot of things. And so at some level, on the practice side, I'm kind of academic. On the academic side, I'm not faculty. And so until this award, honestly, I had always felt like that kind of peer recognition was not for me, that awards were not for me. And I've never done anything pursuing an award, but it is nice to get that recognition. And I always thought that those things were not for me. And then somebody nominated me, still don't know who. Then my peers voted for me. And so that was just really, really nice to have this understanding that people in the field have had recognized me for what I was doing. And I will
Thanks.
stop.
Thank you. And you want to pick somebody for next time?
Oh, let's see. Has Naomi done it? And is Naomi still going to be here?
Yes. Well, I haven't done it. The next meeting is the 22nd,
No, I think the
or is it,
next, I think
is it
we're off
next
the
week?
22nd. Next meeting is next week. Oh, are you in? When are you leaving for the conference?
The 16th.
Well, we can squeak you in
Oh,
then.
yeah. And that work.
Now I'll pick Naomi before we can't pick Naomi.
Okay.
Yeah, Naomi, have you shared your news with everybody?
Not everybody, but yeah, I've accepted a position at Ramble as a consultant. And I'll be starting on August 25th. Yeah.
And so,
Sorry if I inadvertently broke news that you were not intending to break.
well, we would notice her absence pretty soon anyway, so we better break the news. Yeah, it came up very quickly, but I think we're at a good point with what Naomi's done and having her paper submitted. So I'll be very sorry to lose her because it's been fun working with her, but yeah, and all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get her back at some point. When research looks like a good thing to invest in again. Um, okay, folks. So here, there's a lot of people here today. This is wonderful. Um, and what we're going to do today, just authorizing you to pay only half attention if you find this is only worth half your attention, except for Misa, Danny, and Will and Paul. Um, we're going to look at the forms that we take to the field. We have so much field work stuff to do. And so one thing that's come up is Paul has said, well, we better do this in houses, we better do that in houses. And so I want to use this meeting to get us all on the same page about what procedures are going to be done in houses. Now, Ellison, you and Will are setting up something, so you may see things to contribute to. Pi and Erica, I know you're going to be installing stuff in homes that and so this isn't bad for you to see because when you direct the field teams to do something, it's probably going to be on forums like this. They currently I have Word documents. They may end up being on tablets. But this is how we have been communicating to the field teams. And so I think y'all are going to see things that you want to be done. But I specifically also want to make sure that Paul and the field team um, see all the procedures that are currently being done, and we know what needs to be added and fleshed out. Any questions about what we're doing before we start? Questions about the goals? Okay, so hold on. How do you want to draw? Okay. We have a Dropbox that has all the field forms. And I know we have Google Drive, Dropbox, we have a lot of things. The reason we store the field forms on Dropbox is that Google is not good at keeping formatting. This is the link. Many of you folks already have access to it. Some probably don't because it was for the field team alone. I'm going to open that and share my screen and open that. Hold on, I think I'm gonna just share my whole screen so I don't have to keep hopping between windows. But if any of you want to go to it directly, go ahead. And hold on, I'm gonna close a bunch of windows before this because I don't remember what all is open. Okay. Closing lots of things. Oh dear. Should have done this before I started the meeting, as usual. Okay. Closing, closing, closing. This should be closed. This can be closed. This can be closed. Oh my goodness. Oh, 30 windows. All shut now. Okay. Coming back. Okay, so what you're going to see is pretty much the structure on Dropbox. In the field forms and procedures, we have initiation, so that's for setting up homes. Intermediate, which is procedures for while the site is operating, and then removal for when we take down. Will and Misa and a little bit Danny, you have done the bulk of the field work in this group so far. So if you see something or notice that I am missing something, please let me know. And you're also welcome to just jump in and speak. Okay, so the first thing we have is a site initiation form. So we have a lot of forms. So this is the kind of master form of forms. And I think this is where it will show up if something that you want to be done is not yet prepared.
We're still just seeing your directory structure.
Why? Did I only share? I was trying to share the whole thing. Okay, sorry.
Great.
Better?
Yep. Thanks.
Okay. And then, Will and Misa, do you want to comment on this? Because you're the ones who's experienced it the most. So do you want to say anything here? Is that a no? I can't see people because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see everybody's head. So you will need to speak.
Do you mean in terms of like just anything on this form or the title, just like the first page?
So we're just gonna do the first page, but like maybe what it's like for you guys when you go to a home, because I think a lot of people have not even seen that, right? They don't know what the experience is of walking into a home and setting out to do things.
Yeah, so usually typically before we'll go into the house, we'll assign people to do specific tasks. Um, so what you see there is a list of all the things that we need to do, and then in the empty cells where it says assigned to, we'll just put people to kind of divvy up the responsibilities. And then those sheets, because we were doing paper formatting, we just give those specific sheets to the people that were in charge of that specific task so that they could fill it out as they were doing it. I don't know if I have anything else to add to that.
Anything from you, Will?
Nope, Misa covered it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff here, and probably the most efficient thing would be for you to, or for folks to look in the drive itself if you have access, at the specifics of each form. What will be apparent here as I scroll through it is just the kind of things that are being asked. So foundations, building operation, what kinds of appliances, I'm probably going way too fast. And then equipment installation, the weather station, where the thermistors are, where the omnis are, and the manometers are separate. Photographs, I think we need more on this, but one person is usually assigned to take photographs. You can't have too many photographs. I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone back while doing analysis saying, where was that thing? And then Will had been doing a floor plan. That's something that we haven't talked about, right? Are we still doing that? we had fan tests to see the kinds of pressures that the fans caused. We, because we're drilling through the walls, we had to make sure we had paint that would match when we came back to patch up. And then I think the blower door is not in here. It's a separate one, but it should be in here. One of the things that we had a very steep learning curve on was the sequencing. There would be times where like we needed something and all the house doors had to be closed, so nobody could do anything because they couldn't go in and out of the doors. And so the sequence number there is what has to be done first, so it can go quicker. But our first homes were like very long installs, and now they're shorter, but it's still long. It's how long, guys? 3, 4 hours?
Yeah, I think we set it for 3 to 4 to set up, and then it was 2 to tear down.
And this does not include any equipment installation, like any air cleaners or anything. So that's going to have to be added.
So is this the meeting where we're gonna talk about, like if we're gonna do omnis, how many omnis, how many houses we can do, all of that, or is this just amending the forms
So
itself?
this is the meeting where we will talk about everything we want to do in homes that is not the intervention stuff. All the diagnostics. We can even talk about some of the intervention stuff. We are not going to talk about how many homes we can do because that's going to come out of what we decide to do. Does that answer your question, Misa?
Yeah, okay. So then finalizing the things with the weather station, the omnis, fan tests, and then duct leakage.
Right. So Paul had mentioned a duct leakage test, and maybe Paul, I should just maybe pass the baton to you for a little bit and you can comment on what you do see here, what you don't see here.
Yeah, so a couple things, specifically on the duct leakage test, since you just mentioned that, let's just knock that out. Since I think we have pretty well settled on, we are not going to integrate this with a current forced air distribution system, like from a furnace, it's going to be standalone. I think the duct leakage test will be very specific to have we gotten the duct when we're doing the ducted pressure, the whole house pressurization system, have we got that duct tight? So it's just going to be um, a small number, one or probably at most 3 outlets and an inlet. So we will want to do a test of that though to make sure that our duct, that our fan and our filter are installed in is tight. That'll be pretty simple. It'll be faster than if we were trying to do the whole forced air system, but I think we do need to add that.
Okay, and would you say that would be part of the installation? Because I think we're going to have separate forms for installation.
It can be part of the installation. I mean, it's a diagnostic, but it's a diagnostic that's only because of because of what we're installing. So it's fine to put it there. Now we do have, I think you have in here where the mechanical ventilation assessment, that's where you're
Yes,
measuring the pressures, right?
correct.
I don't remember. I was looking at this. Is there one where what is the pressure impact of turning on the furnace fan?
So here's what we do. Here's mechanical ventilation assessment. I'm gonna just make notes in this and change it to version 8. And how come our versions are not matched? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna answer your question indirectly. Misa has been doing some experiments to see what the length of time is that you need to turn a fan on. And so here's the furnace. And so basically we just turn them on one at a time for a certain period of time. And the furnace is in there, and then we mark the start and stop time. We do not identify the pressure difference at that time. This is a test that has to be done when all the manometers are installed. And so then it's a post analysis for the pressure change.
I would advocate for specifically for the furnace fan, doing a spot measurement of what that impact is.
And does spot measurement differ from reading the manometers?
It would be reading the manometers, but doing it while we're there, not doing post-visit analysis.
Okay, can you tell me what that looks like that is different?
It means you have a number while you're still at the house.
Okay, okay, tell me what you want to be done. You have a number, what happens to the number?
If we
What is it used
It
for?
is used to assess whether or not there might be a significant enough issue with duct leakage that it's going to
Okay.
compromise our ability to pressurize the home.
Ah, okay,
And,
okay,
and then we might need
right.
to do something to correct that.
Okay. So I'm going to make a note about that. So the part of the reason that we do post analysis is because those pressures fluctuate,
Mm.
and for so especially for bath fans, um yeah, we should list all the things that should be done in here, especially for bath fans. It's kind of hard to see.
Right.
That's why it comes out of post analysis. But I think you're saying if it's over a certain amount, that's a flag for us to take action.
Yeah, like I've seen when you turn on the furnace fan, I've seen pressures up to like 20 pascals negative,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to be
Okay.
able to pressurize a home if we're starting at minus 20 every time the
Yep.
furnace comes on.
And what number would you flag?
I feel like even 2 pascals is something we want to be worried about because that's a significant amount of what we're going to be trying to pressurize to.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
specifically negative. See, that's the thing with the furnace fan. It could be that it goes positive and helps us.
Well, so I agree that it would be helpful if the house got pressurized by the furnace fan, but isn't that something you would also want to know?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And so that's the
Okay.
thing is what is that number? And then if
Okay.
it's negative by a sufficient amount, we might want to do some corrective action. If it's
Okay.
positive by a certain amount or by any amount, we don't necessarily take action, but we want to know it.
Right. Okay. So I'll put a column in here um for the pressure difference if you can see one, right? Um okay. And then I think I'm guessing that trying to think about the field team, like they can flag something. Are they gonna call you, or do you guys feel like you have enough uh knowledge to know what to do if that pressure reading indicates an issue? Do you feel like you're prepared to take action now, or do we need to set something up? Will, Misa,
Yeah,
Dick?
I would not know how to adjust that at this moment. But obviously, training with Paul, I'll be good to go.
Okay, so
And there are actually two conditions here. One is what happens, say, when all of the doors to bedrooms and bathrooms are closed, and one when they're all open. The one when they're all open is really about duct leakage. The one when they're all closed could be there's no duct leakage, but if you have a central return and insufficient return air pathways, you can very massively depressurize a house if you're pulling all the air out of the core of the house, but pumping a lot of the air behind those closed doors. So, and what happens with those, how we might address that is going to be different
So this raises
because
an
they're
issue that
different
we haven't,
issues.
this raises an issue that we haven't really talked about. I don't think we can do good experiments if people have randomly doors open and closed during different times. I think we need houses that, for the most part, have their doors open. And if they close a door at night, like the master bedroom is often closed at night, we need to know that. Um, Paul, I think the tests you talk about are good for characterizing a house, and its behavior, but um, but I feel like we are we are already have so many variables that we're not going to be able to tolerate um houses that have a large number of operating conditions.
So if we're going to be screening for houses, having it be an eligibility criterion to get the pressurization system that they have to routinely keep their doors open, that's something we should have in the screening criteria.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why
Um,
I'm backing up, because when you said that, I felt like, uh-oh, we we could be testing the house under conditions when it's not going to be operated. Also not helpful, right?
right. Now, I will say, and this may not be something we can do, but I think it's good for this group to be informed so we can be making the most informed decisions. Simply having doors closed does not mean there's a problem. There are standard tests that we do to determine whether or not having a door closed really isolates that room from the rest of the home. And if they've got enough of an
Yes.
undercut or a transfer grill or something like that, it doesn't have to be an issue. So do we want to take that into consideration, or is that a level of detail that complicates our lives enough that we're just going to say, do you keep your doors open or not?
Yeah. Okay. Or cause. So I think that perhaps you and I and a small group, Paul, needs to talk about the screening criterion.
Okay.
Um, okay, so that's a good thing to flag. I would like to ask here, this mechanical ventilation assessment, it takes a long time. Because we've been telling people we want to see every fan, and we want to see the range hood, and we want to see the furnace. And it's 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Misa, I think you're recommending 10. Is that right?
Yeah, it takes about 7 minutes to see a ramp up. Well, from when I was doing tests in Site 301, which is longer than the 5 minutes we were doing in houses for the plateau, or the max whenever the ventilation was on. So I think 10 minutes is fine. I was doing 15 minutes in your house, just because I wasn't sure how long it would take to see that change in pressure steady out. Found that it was 7 minutes. So that's why I said 10 minutes. Like try not to take too long, but also enough to be able to get a good reading.
Right, but as you all can imagine, if it's 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, that's 20 minutes per fan. So there were several times, I think, at the sites, Will, Misa, Danny, you can correct me. There were several times where the fan test was the last thing that we were waiting for. And if we extend that and add more conditions, that's going to add a lot to the installation time.
Yeah, we also shifted that to the tear down procedure.
Right,
Shifted that
but
away from the installation to save time on our installation, because it seemed to go a lot faster on tear down because when Dom was doing it, once we did it on tear down, he didn't really have to wait for anything else to go on because, you know, we weren't moving in and out of the house and installing things. It seemed to work, I don't know, but Misa has sense, maybe it doesn't work that way.
so I think Paul's recommending that we want to see the furnace fan issue at the very beginning. Um, just a practical matter, Paul, that I requested that all manometers would be installed and logging so that we could see the influence on every single manometer. And because that took a while to happen, that sequence of installing the manometers and then doing the ventilation assessment is one of the things that lengthened the install. So
Okay.
we're going to be paying attention to how much sequential time it takes.
So is it okay if I just throw out some off the cuff ideas on that?
Sure.
Okay, first is, while yes, getting all the manometers in place for this systematic ventilation assessment is good, I think that to specifically for the air handler fan impact, if we just throw a manometer across the door, get everything set up in the house in terms of how we want our doors and windows and things like that, and just quickly get a number, then we can identify whether we're going to need to do anything with the duct system, which would allow us to be working, if we do need to do any corrective measure, it would allow us to be doing that in parallel with other activities. And then
Mhm.
we could still do a more rigorous assessment once we got all the manometers in. But I feel like we could, within a couple of minutes, know whether we have an issue with
Okay.
operating the furnace fan and depressurizing. Another thing that an idea for this at this stage, I might advocate for doing, because I think you've said a lot of times you turn on these individual fans and you can't see a signal, right?
You can eventually, maybe, kind of. Yeah. So that's a question. Do we still need that?
So I would say I would advocate for yes, dryer, maybe
Okay.
yes, kitchen fan if it exhausts to outside, and if it doesn't, then it's not an exhaust and it doesn't matter. And then I would advocate for doing all other exhausts at once to see whether, even with all of them on, can you see a signal. If you can't see a signal kind of early on, then you're not going to be able to see a signal that's meaningful for this project.
Yeah.
And so if you can take 3 bath fans and do them all in one test instead of 3 tests, that'll save a good bit of time.
Okay. How does that sound to you, field team?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, it sounds like less work.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of times where like Dom was just shut in the bathroom waiting for we're all standing around. Okay. So I think we changed the
Yeah.
mechanical
And
ventilation
I know a lot of what I'm
assessment.
going to do.
Um, we- Hi, you cut out.
Me?
I I can't hear, yeah, you, I can't hear you. Can what other people hear, Paul? Maybe it was just me.
You seem very delayed.
I'm gonna turn my video off.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Hopefully this is
Okay.
better.
Cool. Okay.
I was just going to make a quick comment that I know I'm going to be adding some things, so I'm also going to be looking for places to trim to compensate for that. And this is one of those places. It sounds like we could make a
Appreciate
streamlining
it.
without sacrificing much information.
Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna be going through these forms and I'll take uh, uh either I or some of the field team will draft a couple of new forms. Big picture though, are there other diagnostics that you see, Paul, or that anybody sees that need to be done? Physical diagnostics on the homes.
So you've got blower doors somewhere, just not in here, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. I believe it should be in here. Where's the blower door form? Or did we not have a blower door form? Will, did we just use we should have a blower door form. What'd you guys do?
I thought we did have a form for that.
I thought so too. Where is it?
I wonder if it was just a
Oh.
check saying that we did it, because
Floor door
we didn't,
test.
I can't remember actually entering anything from that on the form. Like,
So we have the test selection. We have all these setup forms. Paul, I guess a question for you is we have done these buffer space blower doors. We have never used those, although I suppose they could be interesting, but I've never analyzed them. Do you think they're important or necessary for the field homes?
Don't think it's critical for what we're trying to do here.
So I think one blower door test and we need a proper form.
It's
I found a blower door form in the takedown
Oh, and the
folder.
takedown. Oh,
the one thing I might advocate for, Tammy. I mean, you say you did all the ones with the buffer zones. I think I would advocate for still doing that specifically with regard to a basement.
yeah.
If there
Okay.
is a door between the first floor and the basement. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't bother with crawl spaces. I wouldn't bother with attics or garages the way you were in the other work.
we very often didn't do the attic very well. And then the insulation fell out of the attic and we were sad. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's why you don't always want to do the attic.
Okay, I'm gonna put, I think we've got more questions about basement doors because that's the one that's most likely to have a variable position. Yeah, and I felt like the garage ones were not that useful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna include this in the, maybe we shouldn't call it setup. Maybe we should just have one packet of forms. I don't know. Did you guys like having set up and take down separately? Or would it be okay if we just have one?
I think it's fine to have them combined, especially if there's a thing that we might do on the back end. If the home like allows for it.
Yeah, okay. Paul, other diagnostics. I want you
Did
to
you
go
yeah,
ahead.
did you measure ventilation fan flow rates?
No, we didn't have the equipment to do that.
Okay. I would advocate for that. I mean, we can't do it for everything, like we're not going to do it for dryer exhaust, but we're absolutely going to want to do it for our installed system. And then it's pretty simple to do it for any bath fan. So I would
Yeah,
advocate for that.
the
And
range hood is the hard one, right?
I would put a space for the range hood one, understanding that we're not always going
Mm.
to be doing it.
Okay. And so do you recommend the Elnor type?
No, no, I really don't.
Okay.
I recommend the Energy Conservatory exhaust fan flow meter for bath fans. I have one. We'll use it for this. The for the system that we install, it's going to be different. But I'll have to look at the specs on what I have. I mean, there are multiple ways to do it. It's just a matter of how quick and easy it is. So
Mhm.
let's put a placeholder for flow rate of the installed pressurization system, and I will get back to you on exactly what the protocol is for that.
Okay. So, not directly relating to that, but a general principle, I want to work on these forums to give the field team a little more guidance about what they're looking for and why it's being done. Right? So I think, for example, the position of the weather stations, I think people treated it as like, we'll just get a weather station up. Whereas I was, and then I would look at where it was and I'm like, hey. And so we've decided probably not to do weather stations at each location. Danny suggested doing it at particularly exposed sites. But I think providing guidance rather than assuming that everybody has internalized the judgment about when to do stuff and when to skip it, the more we're able to provide that guidance, the less we have to assume that people remember, and that everybody's heard the instructions. At the same time, if you write a huge amount on the forms, then people are busy and the instruction gets missed. So we're gonna have to right size that. Okay, other diagnostics while we have you, Paul. This is your chance.
Right. Um, that is really, I think, what I'm most focused on for quantitative diagnostics. I will say, while I have the floor, you said, do we still want to do a floor plan? Yes, we do still want to do a floor plan and be able to identify where you have supplies and returns, where you have exhausts, where the furnace is. And also we really want to document where, if we're going to be cutting holes in people's floors um, as the outlets for the pressurization system, we want to note very clearly where those were.
So Will, first of all, we need to check with Ellison about whether that instrument would be available. But so Will, how much time did it take for you to do the LiDAR scan? It seemed like 30, 45 minutes.
It took 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the size of the home. It sounds like we probably not gonna have these 3,000 square foot homes like we were doing, so it could take a
True.
lot less, it could take a lot less time.
Uh-huh.
I think what we did with the CDPHE project, which I thought was really helpful for this, is we did kind of like rough drawings and a lot that went along with those floor plans. And that just, I don't know, I think that's kind of helpful, especially like Paul's talking about, like kind of locating where vents are and things like that. And that's something that doesn't really take that much time for a small room. It takes a long time for a huge non-residential room, but for this, it would be.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would advocate for, as a rough drawing. And I'd like to know, like, if you walk around the house, the exterior of the home, how long is the house? How, what are the dimensions of the house, and get the shape of that. And then, but in terms of interior rooms, I don't care how accurate we are. Just say, hey, there's a bedroom over here, a bedroom over here, the kitchen's over here. And this is where we decided to cut a hole into the floor to pressurize the home. The precision of the actual lengths is, I think, not important at all for this.
Okay.
So I think the whole thing we should be able to get just about everything in 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Do you advocate doing the LiDAR scan like Will has? And that's kind of a loaded question, because Will, you had Rachel processing those. There was a lot of back end work that went into that, right?
Yeah, she was using she wasn't using the software that came with it. She was just taking that file and using it in something else. So there are multiple ways that this can get done, and the system is designed for anybody to use. It's not designed, they don't design this so somebody has to have like extensive CAD experience. That's something I didn't look into at the time because we already had a resource to do that had CAD experience, and we're doing it in a different way. So I think it can be done pretty easily, and then also, which we weren't doing for the Epic homes, but it's also is you can just do it outside as well, and to include that in the scan.
Tammy, I have a question though.
Mhm.
I
Go ahead.
I'm not aware of how are those data going to be used. I'm not sure I would advocate for the LiDAR scan if a rough drawing is sufficient to get what Paul is getting at. The amount of time that Rachel would spend on a floor layout going back and forth, I think is not trivial. And it's
Mhm.
not it's not a lot, like Will's saying, it's not necessarily a lot once it's part of a workflow, but that workflow doesn't seem warranted unless you know how you want to use like the highly precise map. And I don't know that I have in my mind how that got used.
Yeah. We didn't,
I
we
don't
didn't
think
use
it
it very
did.
much.
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I've certainly looked at them,
Hmm.
but actually far more useful for me was photos of the house to see how it was
Yeah.
laid out. Like I had a hard time looking at the
Yeah.
diagrams to determine whether something was over something else, for example.
Yeah. I
So,
think the amount of work that goes into getting it to be a useful output is not worth it if that useful, precise output isn't really what we're after. So,
right. And we typically have an area which you can get online as part of public record. It's not always
yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put some more precision in the height measurements because that's where
Mhm.
what we really needed. So, okay, we can talk offline about how to make. Let's go with the assumption that rough drawings will be sufficient and take that as our baseline assumption, and then if we need to come back and graduate back to the lighter, we can. Sound okay?
I support that. I had exactly the same question as Ellison. Like, I wouldn't need it for my stuff. If you needed it for your pressure interpretation, that's,
You,
Yeah, then I'm not sure it's warranted.
yeah.
um,
I think there's one other thing that I would say is if there is a whole house ventilation system that is on a schedule, not just on demand, we would like to know what that schedule is. So like continuous exhaust,
hmm,
supply ventilation that is on a schedule, we would like to know what that is. It's not a quantitative measurement, but it is a characterization.
do we want to, I assume that we would want a measurement of pressure if there was a whole house ventilation system,
Yes,
right? Because you'd be fighting that too.
right.
Or I guess I might wonder if your device is having to fight a whole house ventilation system, is that something that we really want to engage in?
I would advocate for allowing that to be part of our sample,
Okay.
just because so many, especially like weatherization requires that type of ventilation,
Mm,
and so
dang.
it's not something that we can ignore.
Okay. Um, so Erica and Pi, if you're still around, maybe they dropped off. You guys still here?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still here.
Erica's here.
Still here.
You can see how we're communicating to the field team. So this is the kind of thing that y'all may want to think about putting together, like giving enough information. What do you want tested regarding the interface? I realize that's partly a question for Christian too. But the field team is going to be the ones installing the little interface box. And so what would you want to know? How would you include it in this reporting? And so I think that this may not be your thing, but this package is going to grow to contain your things.
Yeah, certainly.
Um, other things that people have spotted or any additional uh diagnostics or things we want to know about the houses? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I think it would be great if everybody got an opportunity to see an install at some point. We often have crowding issues if there's too many people and the poor occupant is, like there's several people stomping around their house. But I'd love to include everybody so you can see how it works.
I think one thing, Tammy, as I'm thinking about this, I think it would be good to have a little, this would be on the installation form, not
Mhm.
on this form, but on the installation form. I think it would be good to have something that says why those outlet locations were chosen.
Outlet?
Like
What
when we
what
put
do
in
you
the
mean by outlet?
pressurization system, I mean, whatever register or grill we're
Oh,
cutting into the floor, why we chose there.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might just be, that's convenient, but if we've got 3 terminations there, why there? If we only have 1, why there? I think it's not bad for us to give our rationale for that, because in 5 years, we're not going to remember.
Right. So Paul, I would love it if you would develop the pressurization system installation guidance and the questions that you would ask. I think you're really the best suited to do that. I
Yeah.
think that doing that it is going to communicate to everybody also more of what you're thinking.
Mhm.
So if you just took that one on, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. We'll do.
Cool. Okay. I don't have anything else. I hope that this has been useful for people. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good
Thanks.
weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.